Hi, everyone. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what happens in Act 1 of Titus Andronicus. You can see right here we have the main characters, Titus. As you know, he's a Roman general. He lost 25 sons in battle with the Goths, who are an invading force to the Roman Empire. His daughter Lavinia is alive, as are these sons Lucius, Mutius, Marcius, and Quintus. And then his grandson is young Lucius. He's the son of the Titus's son Lucius. You also have Marcus Andronicus, who is Titus's brother. He's a Roman tribune who speaks for the people, and Marcus's son Publius. Um, the other major characters you're going to be meeting are Saturninus, who is the firstborn son of the Roman Empire, um, and Bassianus, the younger son of the former emperor. Saturninus will eventually become emperor. You also have Tamora, queen of the Goths. She has been brought by Titus um, as a sort of prize of war um, to Rome with her three sons, Alarbus, Demetrius, and Chiron, because they were defeated by Titus. And she has her lover with her, Aaron the Moor, although that's something the audience knows, but the people in the play don't all know that. Aaron is Tamora's lover. Um, so, just to take you through the first act of the play, it begins with this contention between the two brothers, Saturninus and Bassianus, about who should rule in after the death of the emperor. They each have factions and sides who support them, and Saturninus argues that he's the firstborn, so he should obviously inherit the empire, and Bassianus claims that there should be a vote and the tribune should decide. So Rome was not strictly a monarchy. It had some element of voting on the part of the upper class people, patricians. So there is this tension between the firstborn, primogenitor, it's called, succession to an empire, and the support of the people, putting people in power. Meanwhile, Marcus, the brother of Titus, comes and says, listen, you are striving by factions and by friends who are ambitious for rule and empire. Empery is kind of like rule. And he says, know that the people of Rome, because Marcus speaks for Rome, for whom we stand a special party, have by common voice in election for the Roman Empire chosen Andronicus, surnamed Pius, for many good and great deserts to Rome. So they choose Titus Andronicus because he's a brave warrior, he's a noble man, he's fought against the barbarous Goths, and he has devoted 25 of his sons to the nation. He has spent years fighting and protecting Rome. And so Marcus says, we took a vote and we don't want the sons of the emperor to come to the throne. We'd rather have Titus Andronicus. At line 34, he says, 5 times he hath returned bleeding to Rome, bearing his valiant sons in coffins from the field, and now at last, laden with honors, spoils, returns the good Andronicus to Rome, renowned Titus flourishing in arms. So he's finally defeated the Goths. He should be the one to rule. And Saturninus and Bassianus have to kind of kowtow to Titus, because what he says is true. What Marcus says about his brother is true. And we learn that Bassianus says, I do love and honor him and his sons, and also that he is very fond of the daughter, Lavinia. And he says, I give up my rights to the throne because I know that Titus is deserving of this. Saturninus also, says, I put down my faction, and, I'd like to be the emperor, but if the Romans decide not, so be it. So in comes Titus Andronicus, and he brings with him a coffin and his sons, and he also brings Tamora, the queen of the Goth, in chains, and her sons Alarbus, Chiron, and Demetrius, with Aaron the Moor. And Titus says, Hail, Rome, victorious in thy morning weeds, lo, as the bark that hath discharged his fraught returns, like a boat that has returned with precious lading to the bay from where it first began, comes Andronicus. He's talking about himself, bound with laurel boughs to re-salute his country with his tears. This is one of those moments I want to just point out. Try to read some of the Shakespearean language out loud. When you see that word, re-salute, it doesn't read like re-salute until you read it aloud, okay? Re-salute, salute anew his country with his tears of true joy for his return to Rome. And he says he has given up 25 valiant sons, half the number that King Priam had. King Priam was the king of Troy, and Troy was defeated by the Greeks. Behold, the poor remains alive and dead, these that survive, let Rome reward with love. These that I bring unto their latest home with burial amongst their ancestors. So he has his few boys left. And he says, Here Goths have given me leave to sheathe my sword. Titus, unkind and careless of thine own, why sufferest thou thy sons unburied yet to hover on the dreadful shore of Styx? Make way to lay them by their brethren. So he's saying, I have to bury my sons. And so what Lucius says is, give us the proudest prisoner of the Goths, that we may hew his limbs, cut off his limbs, and on a pile ad manus fratrum, at the hands of the brothers, sacrifice his flesh before this earthly prison of their bones, that so the shadows be not unappeased, nor we disturbed with prodigies on earth. So what they want to do is sacrifice the oldest son of Tamara, queen of the Goths, when they bury all these 25 bodies of Titus's sons. And they want to sacrifice him and burn his entrails. That is part of their religion. Tamora is desperate not to lose her son. She says, gracious conqueror, victorious Titus, rue the tears I shed, a mother's tears in passion for her son. And if your sons were ever dear to thee, to you, O think my son to be as dear to me, sufficeth not that we are brought to Rome to beautify thy triumphs and return captive to thee and to thy Roman yoke, like the thing that cattle go into, but must my sons be slaughtered in the streets for valiant doings in their country's cause. Like they were fighting. They're like prisoners of war. Can they not have some respect? Andronicus, stain not thy tomb with blood. She kneels. Wilt thou draw near the nature of the gods? Draw near them in being merciful. She's asking for mercy. Spare my firstborn son. And he says, "Patient yourself, madam, and pardon me. These are their brethren, whom your Goths beheld alive and dead, and for their brethren slain religiously they ask a sacrifice. To this your son is marked, and die he must, to appease their groaning shadows that are gone." So it's to appease these brothers. So they take away, he rejects her plea, and they take away her son. This gives Tamora cause for revenge. O cruel, irreligious piety. Like sticking to the rules for just the sake of sticking to the rules is barbarous. And her sons are horrified as well. They are thinking now of revenge and bloody thoughts. They take the Alarbus off stage. They kill him. And Lucius comes back. "See, Lord and Father, how we have performed our Roman rites. Alarbus' limbs are lopped, and entrails feed," entrails meaning like the intestines, "the sacrificing fire, whose smoke like incense doth perfume the sky, remaineth naught but to inter our brethren. Nothing remains but to return our brethren, and with loud alarms welcome them, with loud signs welcome them to Rome." And he says, "Let it be so, and let Andronicus make this his latest farewell to their souls." So now we can bury the brothers with the entrails of Tamora's son. Then we meet Lavinia. She gives tears for her brothers. She kneels before them. And, Titus, we can see he has a special place in his heart for Lavinia. And then Marcus comes in and he says, "Welcome to the nephews from successful wars." And he says, "The people want Titus to be the emperor. They call for him to put himself up for election." And Titus demurs. He says, "A better head her glorious body fits than his that shakes for age and feebleness." So he says, even though I'm this great warrior, I'm not meant to rule. I resign my life. I'm not interested. I've been a soldier for 40 years and led my country's strength successfully, and buried 21 valiant sons, knighted in field, slain manfully in arms, in right and service of their noble country. Give me a staff of honor for mine age, but not a scepter, the king, to control the world. Okay. So he doesn't want to be the emperor, and that leaves us trying to figure out whether Saturninus or Pausanias should be emperor, and they leave it to Titus, or they at least listen to Titus's advice. Bassianus, flatters him, and Titus says, "People of Rome and people's tribunes, here I ask your voices and your suffrages. Will you bestow them friendly on Andronicus?" And they say this, "Yes, we will." And the tribunes, Titus says to them, "I thank you in this suit I make, that you create our emperor's oldest son, Saturnine, whose virtues will, I hope, reflect on Rome as Titans raise on earth, and ripen justice in this commonweal. So elect him, elect Saturnine, because that's the rules we should follow. He's the oldest son of the father. Long live Emperor Saturnine." And really, we can talk about this. He's just following the general rules, right? Not considering what the person is like who should be ruling. So Saturninus is overjoyed at this. And to make a pact with the family, he says, "Well, I will take Lavinia as my empress, Rome's royal mistress, mistress of my heart, and in the sacred pantheon her espouse. I will marry her in the sacred church. Does this please you, Andronicus?" And Andronicus says, "Well, yes, it does, because I would love to have my daughter as the empress. And, I consecrate my sword. I will do whatever I can to support thee. And Saturninus says, thanks, noble Titus, father of my life. How proud I am of thee and of thy gifts. Okay. So Titus says, now, madam, you are prisoner to an emperor. So now he hands over the prison keeping of Tamara to Saturninus, and Saturninus says, come up, fair queen, that cloudy countenance, so chance of war hath wrought this change of cheer. Thou comest not to be made of scorn in Rome. Princely shall be thy usage in every way. So he is kind of lifting up the queen of the Goths. And he asks Lavinia, are you not displeased with this? And she says, no. Now the thing is, Lavinia and Bassianus have already committed to each other. They're already in love with each other. And Titus rejects that this is a relationship. Bassianus says to his brother, you cannot take my betrothed to be, like my fiancée, and he takes her away. And Marcus agrees, the brother, he says, she really is his bride to be. And the brothers jump in on this and say, yeah, Lavinia can't marry Saturninus. She's already engaged to Bassianus. Titus calls them traitors, his own children. And he says, treason. They're taking Lavinia away. Saturninus says, surprised by whom? And one of the brothers stays behind to try to let Lavinia and Bassianus get away. And when Titus comes upon them, his own son, Mucius, says, my lord, you pass not here. And Titus says, what, villain boy, barrest me my way in Rome? Will you stand in my way? And he stabs his own son. Okay. Second big mistake. So first, he sacrificed Tamara's child when she begged him. Secondly, he votes for Saturninus. And really, third, he kills his own son who's trying to protect his daughter. So Titus is making some questionable choices here. And Lucius and the brothers protect him, and they don't protect her, and they don't want Lavinia to go with Saturninus. And Saturninus turns this around and says, you know what? I don't need her. I don't need her. I don't need you. I don't need any of your stock. I'll trust by leisure him that mocks me once, thee never, nor thy traitorous, haughty sons, confederates all thus to dishonor me. So now he's got the emperor against him. He said, to think that I begged the empire at thy hands, and how they treated me. And, Titus is horrified. And Saturninus says, go give that changing piece to him that flourished for her with his sword. Go off to Bassianus, my brother, a valiant son-in-law, one fit to bandy with thy lawless sons. And Titus says, these words are razors to my heart. And Saturninus says, and therefore, lovely Tamara, I will raise you up to be empress. I choose thee for my bride, and will create thee empress of Rome. What do you think? Now remember, Titus sided with Saturninus. He even killed his own son to protect Saturninus, and now Saturninus is just letting him go, and he's choosing Tamara to be the queen, and Tamara has great cause for revenge with Titus, because Titus had her own son killed. So she agrees to be Saturninus's wife, and Titus can't stand it because he's conquered her in battle. And he says, I am not bid to wait upon this bride. Titus, when wert thou wont to walk alone, dishonored thus and challenged of wrongs? So then Marcus and Titus and Lucius have an argument about burying the boy or the son that Titus killed. Titus doesn't even want him buried with the rest of them, but his brother and his other sons plead, and they do allow, ultimately, Titus allows Mucius to be buried with the other boys, the other sons, but he feels like things are disintegrating. Um, you know, that the now Rome is being ruled by Saturninus and the Queen of Goths. He doesn't know if he can even trust his own sons. So Saturninus comes back in with Tamara and her two sons, Chiron and Demetrius. He decides to kick Bassianus out of Rome. So, Bassianus, you have played your prize. God give you joy, sir, of your gallant bride. And Bassianus says, and you of yours, my lord, I say no more, nor wish no less. And so I take my leave. Saturninus calls him a traitor, his own brother, and says, if Rome have law or we have power, thou and thy faction shall repent this rape. And we need to interrogate what this word means in this context. Rape call you it, my lord, to seize my own, my true betrothed love and now wife, but let the laws of Rome determine all. Meanwhile, I am possessed of that is mine. So he says, I'm going to leave and I'm taking Lavinia with me. I really rescued her from you, and we should be happy she's not married to you. And also, Titus doesn't want Bassianus, defending him either. It's just a mess. Who steps in to defend Titus? Tamora, Queen of the Goths. She says, for good Lord Titus's innocence and all, whose fury not dissembled speaks his griefs, then at my suit graciously look on him. But to the side, she says, look, Saturninus, my lord, be ruled by me, be won at last, dissemble your griefs and discontents, you're newly planted on the throne. It is not time to rock the boat with Titus. So just stay the course. Revenge will come later. And she says, take up, out loud, take up this good old man and cheer the heart that dies in tempest of thy angry frown. And Saturninus says, all right, my empress hath prevailed. And so then he says, I thank you. These words infuse new life in me. And Tamara says, Titus, I am incorporate in Rome, like I am part of Rome, a Roman now happily adopted, and must advise the emperor for his good. This day all quarrels die, Andronicus. Oh, do they? And let it be mine honor, good my lord, that I have reconciled your friends and you. For you, Prince Bassianus, I have passed my word and promised to the emperor that you will be more mild and tractable. And fear not, my lords, and you, Lavinia, by my advice, all humbled on your knees, you shall ask pardon of his majesty. And now look at the power she has in just one scene. So Saturninus says, I will remit these faults, and thanks to Tamora for entreating me to do that. Lavinia, though you left me like a churl, like a jerk, I found a friend, and sure as death I swore I would not part a bachelor from the priest. And he says, magnanimously, let's feast two brides. You be my guest. And that is how we end the first act. But there's a lot of tension there. In the second act, immediately we get revealed that Aaron is the lover of Tamara, who has just married Saturninus. And he says, Aaron the Moor. Now climbeth Tamora's Olympus's top, safe out of fortune's shot, and sits aloft, secure of thunder's crack or lightning flash, advanced above pale envy's threatenings reach, as when the golden sun salutes the morn, and having the gilt the ocean with his beams, gallops the zodiac in his glistering coach, and overlooks the highest peering hills. So Tamara. So she has ascended, and he's going to ride that with her. Okay, we'll pick up in class when we meet again.